Welcome to the Hong Kong Forum. This is the World Hong Kong Forum, and we have this broadcasting from Toronto, Canada. It's good to have Mark Simon appear for the first time in the first Hong Kong Forum. The ultimate goal is to bring this forum back to Hong Kong. We don't know when. I hope soon. So, welcome, Mark. The
Thanks.
topic for today actually it's how to save Hong Kong. Now, it's July 1st right now in Toronto. And I think it would be around July 2nd, around 2 a.m. In no, actually, it's still evening time in Hong Kong because this is the July 1st session. But anyways, how to save Hong Kong when we have, as you can see, this banner underneath. This is just a portion of the thousand or so that are detained, and it's more than surreal to see the extreme makeover over the last 3 years or so, and a lot of these people underneath, most of them, you know, and I know, they could be in prison for a long, long time. So a big question: how to save Hong Kong?
Well, it's really first of all, I think the first thing we have to figure out is what are our goals, and my goal is for the people who remain in Hong Kong to have a safe, as free as possible, open life, and a productive and profitable life. In other words, what I mean, like I don't look. We've lost the battle for Hong Kong at this time. In other words, the CCP is in full control. Um, there are nothing but quislings running the government now. That's basically spineless lackeys of the Beijing government. That's who we've got. All right, that's the situation. They have all the guns across the border. They have all the troops. Hong Kong is a captured entity at this time. Now, it's always been part of China, and I don't think anybody's ever disputed that. It's one of the great lies. So I think what we have to do is look at where we can actually help the people of Hong Kong. And that line running below our screen right now is the first place that everybody in the world can actually stand up and say, hey, if you guys want to try to have some type of relationship with us as any normal Chinese city would have, well, we're not going to tolerate that. Just like we have with the cotton now and the products coming out of Jing'an, the U.S. has taken action there. Why are they doing that? It's because there's basically hundreds of thousands of people in camps. Proportionally, the same thing happens in Hong Kong. We've got probably about 1,200 people now in or out of the judicial system who are in custody in some way, being held to their apartments or something like that. And these people are the people that we need to free. And if the Hong Kong government and the Chinese government, they're already trying. There was just a story the other day where they're talking to foreign business executives. If they want to bring things out, well, these people have to be out. And I think that's the focus that we have to have. I everybody knows I ruffle feathers a little bit, and I don't mind doing it on both sides of the aisle. What is the goal of the people who are overseas? The goal of the people overseas is not to cause China trouble just to cause China trouble. It's not to be difficult just to be difficult. There's got to be a goal. There's got to be an ask. And to me right now, the ask is that they will have less pressure. There's no deals to be made. There's nothing that we're going to trade. The U.S. and the West is not going to trade anything for these people because there's nothing that China has to trade that we have that China wants to trade for, other than a lessening of the pressure. In other words, right now, it is going to be impossible for Hong Kong to become a normal place again. It's going to be impossible for Hong Kong to become a financial center as long as you have thousands of people under some type of judicial persecution for political crimes. A city of 6.5, 7 million people where everyone's fleeing is not good in the first place. When you add in a couple of thousand political prisoners, it's just not going to happen. That defies logic. Hong Kong has to participate and is an open society, or they just have to close up like someplace in Tibet. So to me, what's the first thing that we can do to save Hong Kong is save Hong Kongers. Let's save some Hong Kong people. And let's raise enough cane, let's cause enough trouble, let's put enough blocks in there on Hong Kong and on the CCP that they say, you know what, these people are too much trouble. We're in control anyway. In other words, we're not asking them to give anything up other than just being evil tyrants. Okay, just release these people. You've got 70-year-old people. You've got, of course, my boss Jimmy. Of course, he's my friend. I have a huge interest in this. But I've got 7 or 8 other people in there who I'm also very tight with. And then on top of that, there's another 40 or 50 who I know.
May I interrupt just for one thing? That are you surprised when you see people like Leung Tin-K or Agnes Chow? Once they are released, they kind of disappear. You don't even know where they are.
I mean, well, look, it's not. There's nothing in my world that would make those people want to come up and say anything, because then they go right back in jail. And the issue is really for the Hong Kong government is, what do they want to do? And what they don't understand, and they never get this. For some reason the mainland gets it. Once you kick somebody out, once you move somebody out, like I'd let Agnes Chow go. Let Agnes Chow go. She's going to go to Japan. She's going to do a seminar probably for 2 or 3 years. And then just like all the other dissidents will probably, unless something drastic happens, will probably move on with her life, as most dissidents from Tiananmen, as most political dissidents anywhere in the world do. They move on. And I don't blame these people. My point is, Hong Kong, they have taken it. Really, in many ways, you could call these political dissidents. In other words, they just don't have. They're not going to rise up in Hong Kong anymore. And if you keep them in Hong Kong, they're actually in more trouble. And also, they're not a lesson. That's the other thing too. What you'd hear from somebody say, "Well, we'll show you for rising up." Well, guess what? Everybody in Hong Kong was doing exactly what they were supposed to do until July 1st, 2020, when the national security law came in 2020. 2020. So until that time, everybody was okay. But guess what? They're putting people on trial for. They're putting people on trial. I've been hearing people are being questioned about what they did in 2014, what they did in 2017. So there's a lack of rationale there. And then we've got, the Secretary for Security showing up and giving this ridiculous. I mean, people were laughing. Chris Tang. People were literally laughing. Pro-Beijing people were laughing in some Slack groups when he was talking about the terroristic threat in Hong Kong. Nobody was killed in Hong Kong on either side. Now, people died, and it was tragic. But nobody was killed. There was nobody opened fire on anybody, and the police get credit for that. But also the protesters get credit that they didn't kill anybody either. Okay? There were accidents that happened. There was a man who was tragically hit with a brick. That wasn't an organized part of a protest. That was a fight. There was just like the policeman shot the guy in the street that day. Of course, it happened as part of it. But there was no real government or no protester-led what I would call deaths. There were accidents, there were mistakes, and that's tragic. But the idea that there was some terroristic threat going on and some terrorism happening, why do you raise that? You raise it up because you think, okay, this will help us. Nobody in the world believes it. It actually hurts their case, to be honest with you. And so the thing is we have a problem now with a Hong Kong government that doesn't really understand how to get the Hong Kong economy back in. And they don't want to, if we still had Donald or we still had somebody else in there who could speak to the mainland government and say, look, you guys need Hong Kong, we need Hong Kong. The Chinese desperately want Hong Kong to be a Chinese financial center for Asia and the world. In other words, they know Shanghai can't do it. They want to have the pretend, they want to make believe that the legal system is still there for commercial transactions. They really do this. I have some friends in Singapore, and they said you can feel you're being studied. We can feel the mainland Chinese and the Hong Kong people. How does Singapore do it? Well, you know how Singapore does it? Lee Kuan Yew didn't put people in jail all the time. You know what I'm saying? You know, there's pressure, there's things you can do. Nobody really spoke up. People had to leave Singapore. People are leaving Hong Kong. But to me, I actually care about Hong Kong. I have a lot of friends who won't be leaving Hong Kong. They're business people. They have small businesses. They're property owners. I don't want to see these people hurt. Nobody wants to see these people hurt. But who's hurting them right now? The Hong Kong government. Because I'm telling you right now, the Hong Kong movement abroad right now is somewhat drifting. If you look at them right now, I mean, I'm sure somebody's going to yell at me for this, but you know, you've got people doing a variety of different things, looking for their niches. But everyone's going to start focusing pretty soon on these names down below. The other thing too is this is something foreign politicians can actually sink their teeth into. You know, anytime you visit a foreign politician who's actually any good, what they ask is they say, "What do you want?" You know, I've got a line of people out the door here who are asking me to be involved in something. What do you want? Tell me what you want. Well, we show up there and we say we want everyone to understand that the CCP is evil. I think everybody's got that. Check the box. Well, we'd like everyone to denounce this. Okay, we do that. But what do you want? What do you want us to do? I think there's going to be a growing movement for people to say, we'd like these people to get out.
Yeah.
Okay. For example, I don't want to name anybody because then I name them and everybody goes, I show up in the Chinese press. Mark Simon says we should free this person. But look at the names of these dissidents below. These people, almost all of them would probably leave tomorrow. Almost all of them really don't have anything that's jumping out in terms of violence or seriousness or anything like that. Most of them are going to have been in jail by the time they go to trial for up to 2 years for the crime they're accused of. That's long enough. Convict them, write the article, cut the deal with them and get them out. Hong Kong's not going to recover. Sometimes we have to help Hong Kong save itself. What can we do to Hong Kong? No one's going to retake Hong Kong. I remember, just real quick, the most ridiculous conversation I ever had about Hong Kong. I mean, and he'll probably deny it, was Ronnie Tong. Ronnie Tong made a statement one time. I know he'll deny it.
Tongawa.
He made a statement that we have to worry about an invasion from the US. He just threw it out there. And I was standing to the side and I was like, what? But he got challenged on it and then he immediately backed off on it. I'm sure he will deny saying it. But the point is, he was parroting a line and he'd hoped that nobody would call him on it. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, they did. I mean, people were just like, what are you, stupid? I mean, like, you know, no, the Seventh Fleet's not going to invade Hong Kong. The other thing, too, is they've set up all these things like C.Y. Leung is constantly setting up, oh, you know, there was a great Jimmy Lai was working with the West. That's like their line, that Jimmy Lai, Mark Simon, Jimmy Lai, Mark Simon. Come on, be serious. Most people know, grapple daily. Our job as a newspaper in a free society is to question authority, and that's all they did continuously. Jimmy believes in democracy. He promoted democracy when he could. He would never say he didn't do that. But as far as a separatist, as far as independent, Jimmy loves China. He really does. He's a patriot in many ways. He loves China. But he has a problem with the Chinese Communist Party, as do most of these people. But it doesn't mean that they should go to jail. And it doesn't mean they should sit there. And it certainly doesn't mean all of the growth and potential that Hong Kong has should be bottled up, because the West is starting to focus in on this. I'm starting to hear the discussions more and more. What can we do? And right now, the movement is trying to make sure, well, you know, they're evil. Look at this person. Look at that person. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think what's going to happen is we're going to have some numbers here of people, and we're going to start saying, okay, here are the 2,000 people that face NSL charges. They could be locked away for 15, 20 years, or 7, 10 years, whatever it is. These are the people we want to start seeing out. And they'll say, what will you give us? And we'll say nothing. But common sense tells you when you have fewer political prisoners and when you have no political prisoners, people don't really have something to complain about.
Right. May I ask one thing? You mentioned Donald, right? So some people might not catch.
Oh, Donald Trump. Yes,
very
sorry.
quickly. Donald Zhang, you mean? And
Donald Trump, yeah.
Yeah, and also guys, I think that really have business sense will be like John Zhang or even
John Jung, yeah.
And also
serious people.
I mean,
Anson
they're like retired, and then like Anson is like 82 right now. They are still. I'm not sure whether Anson is still in Hong Kong. Do you think they can be a bridge, like bridging the gap between, I don't know, the free world and also Beijing? Because John Lee, to a lot of us, it's just following instructions from Beijing, right? But
I think it's going to have to be Beijing led. I think they've effectively gutted anybody of quality and talent. And if you're Donald and you're in your Donald Trump, you're in your 70s, and you're John, you're in your late 60s. You know, I mean, maybe you can speak with the people in Beijing and say you should do this, you should do that. But the thing about freeing people is that gives them something to talk about. You're not talking policy, you're just talking common sense. Like, look, as long as you guys are holding Lee Chuck-Yan, Claudia Mo, all these people, you're going to have trouble. You know, the FT just had Claudia, a big thing on Claudia Mo, and basically saying she's going to die in jail. Now, do you really want people to start dying in jail and then these officials start getting upset? In other words, there's two mistakes here being made, and that's on both sides understanding their position. The first mistake is really the Hong Kong government's made a pretty serious mistake in my mind in how they handle this. And what I mean by that is they actually think that they have something the West must have. And I think they're learning that's not true. In other words, business in China and Chinese business can find a way around Hong Kong. Of course, it's easier to work through Hong Kong, and capital will always flow to the path of least resistance. But right now, because of all these people they've got in jail, the walls are getting pretty hard. In other words, I can assure you when the Rugby Sevens happens, every dissident group in the English team and the Welsh team and the Irish team and everybody else, the Australian team, are going to basically face Hong Kong activists and have to answer questions. Why are you doing this? Now, you can always find the Eileen Goos of the world, you know, the American girl who basically sold her soul for Beijing. You can always find those people. But also you have to remember that a lot of people just will say, you know, I'm not going to go to that. Mm-hmm. And so it'll damage the good. Same token, these major CEOs and people who come over, every time they come to Hong Kong and they want to give the speech, maybe they're not going to be able to give the speech because when they go back, someone's going to be holding up a sign calling them on it. And also their employees are not going to be happy about it. Especially, you know, there's a new ethos now in the world when it comes to work. And people really don't want to be associated with companies that are shoe-shining dictators and people who have, you know, committing genocide in Xinjiang and basically locking up people in Hong Kong. So there's an underestimation and a misunderstanding of what the role is in Hong Kong. The other thing is, I think there's a misunderstanding on the Hong Kong community abroad's belief in what their power and their role can be. It's wonderful to sit around and discuss global issues with people. It's wonderful to talk about giant power dynamic changes. But the fact of the matter is the real strength of the Hong Kong community in the halls of Western governments and governments throughout Asia is basically the human condition. In other words, look, we've got, for example, a 23-year-old or 24-year-old autistic boy who's just been sentenced to jail. Mm-hmm. Even the Filipinos or the Malaysians are somebody who they all want to, they believe it or not, people do want to try to do that. They want to help if they can. if it's an easy one for them. When you bring up these dissidents and these people, then you can start getting help. You know what I'm saying? In other words, everybody doesn't have to be a high profile person.
Like the audiologist, the speech pathologist, right?
Yeah, those people, you know, those people are the ones that really we need to help. I know it's not as sexy, and I know it doesn't make you, you know, feel as good as sitting around, you know, having these big discussions on global impacts. But to me, it's I've always been this way. I've always been the you know, I would call, you know, everybody wants to be a general. I'm happy being the master sergeant. You know what I'm saying? The sergeant major. I'm happy with that role because I think you got to get things done. And I think what we have to get done is we have to look around and say, okay, these are the people that we want to get out. And there's another thing that happens when we say these people we want to get out of jail. They find out about it. And that's my other point here. We are saving individuals. And as Christians, we are reaching out to people, and not just Christians, anybody else, pagans, atheists, whatever, you pick it. You know what I'm saying? I don't care. But you're telling a person, they always find out about it. They always find out about it. We learned that with the Gulag, with Solzhenitsyn. We learned that with Sharansky. We've learned that in Burma. I learned that in speaking with people when I visited Burma multiple times. And I met with dozens of dissidents, people who had been tortured. They said they knew that people were asking about them. They knew who people were. You know what I'm saying? They know these things. In Iran, I've heard the same thing. I was speaking, it must have been about a year and a half ago. Okay. There's so many different things that we can do, okay, for people. And those things that we can do for people are so great that they, in their smallness, and what I mean by that, they're so great in their smallness, focus on somebody, get them out. It's my big problem with Amnesty International now and Human Rights Watch and all these other people and the whole issue that we have and we continue to have with all of these people is really that we have to work on getting them out. Okay? This is the thing that really matters. We have to work on getting these people out. And that's a tangible goal. And to me, after that, then Hong Kong starts seeing some benefit, and they go, hey, you know what? You know, if we basically cut these people's sentences a little short or just let them out and basically ask them to leave, we don't get asked about them anymore. And magically, we don't have a group yelling at us all the time. And magically, we can get on with life. But there's no deal here. That's the worst part. I'm not privileged to say it, but I know some pro-Hong Kong, pro-Beijing Hong Kong businessmen tried to make this ridiculous approach over here in the U.S. about, well, what if we trade this for this? In other words, we'll trade this person and then we'll take these other people off sanctions, or we'll get special trade privileges. That flopped in about, that didn't make 5 seconds. You know what I'm saying? People just looked at them. It's not going to happen. But what will happen is the common sense thing that happens is that essentially, if you take away the irritant, people stop scratching. And right now, the irritant to the West and the irritant to everybody else are these dissidents.
Of course, and you know, from the Trump administration, of course, there were like 7 or 8 of those, including John Lee and Chris Tang. They are sanctioned because they take away Hong Kong's autonomy, and I don't think the U.S. government would take that away anytime.
No, you're right. It's you can't ask for it and then go back on it. But by the same token, there's probably going to be some more people sanctioned too. There's no doubt in my mind. They're looking at the judges. They're looking at some of these other people. You know, I'm fine with that. Do what you want to do. But to me, I got 2 concerns. First of all, I want to get all these people who are in there out. I got, in particular, I've got probably about 40, including the Apple Daily people, I want out. All right, and that's really good. The second thing is, it's good for Hong Kong. This is the whole thing. This is Beijing's in charge. Does anybody doubt that? You know, I mean, that's why the Chris Tang thing was so ridiculous. This shows the terrorism that was underway. Oh, come on. You got a clown. Or then the independence threat. Have you ever seen the independence movement? It's a bunch of guys dressed up as game show. I mean, we used to go to Mongkok. You were down there a couple of times. I went down there to check them out. It wasn't a serious group of people.
Well,
It
it's
was
not
Hong
like
Kong.
a CY. I mean, CY is.
Oh no, I'm look. I don't go conspiracy early, but yeah, CY basically gave these guys life. You know what I'm saying? And then but Andy, they're nice guys, but come on, is anybody serious? Does anybody serious take these people seriously? They're having to manufacture demons. I mean, it's kind of like everybody who follows Hong Kong. This is not. I'm not one of these ones that like plays the game of like I'm more oppressed than somebody else. I'm sitting here in a beautiful home in New Jersey. I mean, on my way to Florida, my house in Florida. I'm sitting in New Jersey, not at home, but sitting in Jersey, and on my way down to my house in Florida. I mean, I'm in Canada. I am fine. I am out. Does it matter that I have I think they told me I have 7 charges against me in Hong Kong? No, it doesn't mean anything. You know why? Because I'm not going back to Hong Kong. All right. Now they've frozen my MPF. I'd like to get that money back. They've frozen my bank accounts. I'd like to get that money back. We'll work on that at a later date. Okay. That'll happen at a later date. I'd like them to figure out what the hell they're doing with Apple Daily, but that pales in comparison to what's happening here. As for the grand strategy questions of what China does in the world, hey, above my pay grade. You know what I'm saying? In other words, I want to fix what we have to fix right now. But the real thing is, I don't bear ill will against the people of Hong Kong. In other words, I don't want to burn down the village to save it. I think the Hong Kong people and the people that live and travel to Hong Kong have a right to do as they want to do. When the Hong Kong government has basically removed the irritants. And these people are the irritants, or China has removed the irritants. You move the people to China, it's not letting Hong Kong off the hook. It actually makes it worse. But the point is that I originally came to is Hong Kong has always been part of China. I don't think of any of these people at the senior level who ever advocated Hong Kong not being part of China. For the most part, it's my opinion that the democracy movement under most of the old guard until 2019 was basically playing for time. We're going, all right, 2047 is our cutoff date. In 2027, we still had 20 more years. Yeah. Now, many of us at our age and cholesterol count and, depending on how much we drink, we may not make it to 2047, but the goal was to keep going and going and going. I always felt that John Jung, Donald Chang, people like Anson, other people, that was the goal. Jimmy, just keep it going, push it back. It's the reason why in 2009, I was very much in favor of taking the deal with the government. It was just based on the whole logic. If you can just keep them at bay, because I've never had any illusion about what they had. Earlier, we talked about surprised that the Apple Daily was closed. I wasn't surprised at all. I mean, I unfortunately I have a tendency in me that I can think like the jackboot set, and I would have taken Apple Daily out way before they did because of the threat that it represented to them. You know what I'm saying? I know why they hate Jimmy, the threat that he represents. Jimmy talks in a manner and with a set of ideas that everybody can understand. It's the reason why he's so effective abroad. Okay. And they're creating, I'm not saying, they're creating a world-class dissident by persecuting him. And they're doing the same with Claudia. They're doing the same with Joshua. Look at these people. If they want to go, they want to go. And you're not providing any deterrent, because to provide a deterrent, you have to have an argument that something's going to blow up. Something's going to happen in Hong Kong. There's nothing happening. They own the town now. They own the town. And I think the mainland, here's the funny thing, the Hong Kong government's going to have to, there's people who in the West who have good relations with China at the senior level. And those people are going to be making this argument to the Chinese. So Hong Kong may get left out of the mix. In other words, they may just get a phone call one day and say, hey, you know what? cut a deal, offer these people 3 months and out. And a lot of people will take it. You know what I'm saying? Offer these people 6 months and out. Plead guilty, serve 6 months, out. I'm worried about some of our people, especially some of our older ones. I am particularly worried about Cardinal Zinn.
Yes.
I think they are so dumb, I think they may try to put him in jail. How does that help Hong Kong? How does that help Hong Kong? Helps Hong Kong in no way, shape, or form. And I think they're going to be coming for, I think the other religious communities have thought that they would escape this. I think they're coming for them soon too. But it doesn't help them to have all these dissidents. So to me, how we save Hong Kong and how we help Hong Kong is essentially, it's always the long game. And what we do is we get these people out. That helps Hong Kong basically remove an irritant. I think you'll start seeing, you'd start seeing some return to normalcy in the financial world there. If that happened, if they could get rid of these dissidents and things like that, they seem, and then I think hopefully what would happen is, as long as Hong Kong stayed open to the world and open to ideas, I think we're in the fight. You know what I'm saying? It's like a little while ago in another show, I said to you, you know, Exodus 14.14, you know, the Lord will fight for you while you keep silent. I mean, look, if they want to keep Hong Kong flowing again, that's fine. It's like me. I'm not one. I don't think it's great. But the idea that they've just declared that Hong Kong was never part of Britain, you know what I'm saying? Well, anybody who has access to a computer is going to know that's a lie. So if they want to make their own position weak by telling these lies, I'm fine with that. It just helps Hong Kong stay alive longer. Look at the polls that just came out where 65-70% of Hong Kong youth identify as Hong Kongers and not Chinese. You know, as long as you keep political prisoners, as long as you're oppressed in the society, 100% guaranteed, it stays that way.
Right. So we're kind of running out of time.
All right, I'll let you go.
Thank you, Mark. And some of us will see you physically in Toronto, Canada.
You will see me there. Okay. Take care. All the best. Bye-bye now.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.